Well, I'm Andrew,
I'm Neil.
and welcome to the Lifted Spirits podcast, where we raise some glasses and tell some encouraging stories and discuss how to find meaning through family, friendship, art, and everything in between. We've got today this is a spiritless bourbon. Non-alcoholic.
Okay.
74, and it's an old-fashioned, so it's got some orange juice and honey in it.
I like it.
It's pretty good stuff. Yeah, go for it. It was our first time. We don't really know what we're doing. And
Okay.
it's a little sour.
Yeah, I did brush my teeth not that long ago, so
The OJ.
that may affect the OJ
Yeah,
a
you'll
little
give
bit.
it a bit.
Yeah.
The honey's nice. So here we are. What really inspired this podcast was two things, really. One, I feel like so much of what the algorithm recommends to me either annoys me or drags me down. It's always like, oh, this person or this group
Yeah.
did this thing, and it's trying to pit people against each other rather than bring people together. And I thought it'd just be nice to find content or create content that's actually inspiring and encouraging and lifts people's spirits and brings people together. And two, the main reason I'd say is that I think the systems and structures that used to give people meaning, which is primarily used to be organized religion, have really failed a lot of people, and we're not looking to be particularly religiously affiliated with any religion on this podcast, but we're not looking to trash religion either. It just seems there's a real meaning crisis of sorts, and it's been left by that void of traditional religion, like what that used to fill for people. And I think we can focus too much on trying to find an overarching or universal purpose in life, like in God or the cosmos or whatever, and hope that everything will flow from that. And for some people, that seems to work really well. But other people might need to find meaning from the ground up, finding meaning in your family, in your relationships, your work, your art, just your day-to-day interactions. And from there, building up a scaffold to where you can create more of a robust sense of meaning for your life. And so, with the meaning crisis, do you have some initial thoughts on just
I don't know. I kind
on in the world?
of had a question come to mind, when the meaning crisis. Do you think this is a new modern thing, or the way you asked that question in my homework? I was like, there definitely is a meaning crisis, but I don't know if it's new. I feel like that's just kind of a human constant throughout history of what does this all mean? And there's so much that we don't know. So
Good point.
I don't know. Do you think it's more prevalent now?
I don't know. It's probably just that we have more time to think about it.
Right.
Before you're just trying to not get eaten by a bear.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Now we can sit around and drink whiskey and non-alcoholic since it's 10 a.m. So,
Yeah. And think about the meaning of life.
Yeah. And I'm a recovering intellectual of sorts. I try not to think too hard about things.
Yeah.
So I like some of the practical stuff of I don't know if I can find meaning in Neil deGrasse Tyson, look at the stars and piece everything together. I get a lot of meaning just from, those moments of connection between people. And
Right.
so I don't know. I'm sure humans have always sought after meaning. And there's probably people who found better and worse answers. I don't know.
Yeah. I feel kind of hopeless when I look at people that I know are way smarter than me. I'm like, you still know nothing. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I think you're right. You have to just enjoy those little moments, where you can see something's beautiful or real or true.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I want to say this was 2015. One of my friends worked in a bar. He did bartending, and I went to see him once, and he said something along the lines of Andrew, everyone that I know that's our age is either depressed, suicidal, or an alcoholic. And that always hit me really hard because that may be an overgeneralization, but yeah, there's just a lot of people that are down and out. And truth be told, 2021 was definitely the worst year of my life, just mentally. And it's just, it can be hard to get back up on your feet when you're well, why even do anything? Because all your all your friends either disappear or ghost you, or like some of them die, some of them move away and you don't hear from them, and the business things you try don't seem to work, and you're just like, why even try anything? It all just feels like sand through your fingers sometimes. And so I got pretty depressed for a while there. And so a lot of this podcast, I think, is just as much like a journey to help me find meaning as much as it's not like to share. Like, I've gotten to the pinnacle.
Yeah.
I'll share it to the lowly masses.
Yeah, absolutely. I kind of had trouble answering some of these questions because I'm like, I don't know that I've found it really. So I'm excited to just be very humbled and come to a place where hopefully some of the people we talk to can kind of teach us something, because I don't know anything.
Yeah, me either. Also, why I don't know why people should care at all to what we have to say, because who even are we? Like, you should introduce yourself a little bit, and then I'll do the same.
Okay, I'm Neil. How much do we want here? Born and raised in Springdale, Arkansas. Still reside in the area. I am currently a firefighter, so that's fun. Yeah.
For your sir.
Oh yeah.
But for real.
Yeah.
Like, you do a lot for the community.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I met Andrew, elementary school?
Yeah.
Early on.
We didn't really hang out though till 2013, 2014.
Yeah, probably sophomore year of college. My college, you'd already dropped out.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's like the really quick version. I have a wife, Laura. No kids or dogs yet, but we're moving in that direction. So
what first?
I don't know. Probably a kid. Maybe we should practice on the dog first, but yeah, I'm ready. I'm working her up to it. So, but yeah, it's been good being able to travel and do some different things before we have the kids. But yeah, that's me. I'm sure more will come up. I like to be pretty open. I'm going to try to be as honest as I can on this podcast without throwing anyone under the bus.
Yeah, that's definitely a goal.
Yeah.
Say what you have to say without trashing other people.
Yeah,
there's plenty of that in the world. And yeah, I'm Andrew. My last name's Power, which is kind of fun. And you'd think it means strength, but it's like the old Gaelic for poor. Like, my family was the village woes, basically. So, fun fact. And I technically wasn't born in Springdale, but I've lived here since I was 2. And yeah, I love Arkansas. I've been together with my wife now for almost 10 years. Actually, the day that Alexis, my wife, and I met is the same day as their anniversary, October 3rd. So this year, October 3rd, I'll have known Alexis for 10 years. Wow, it's a long time. Yeah, we got a 3-year-old and a 9-month-old, and I'm a wedding photographer / videographer, and that's kind of what I do. So that's us. And right now for you, what's giving you, not even meaning, because meaning can feel so like far off and distant, but just in day-to-day life, what's getting you really excited and motivated? Like, when you get up, what's like your drive?
Well, obviously some days are better than others, but I'm in kind of a phase right now where I'm starting to work more on my mental health. So I have a therapist, and I've read The Tools. It's a book that came out. I think maybe we'll talk about it a little later, but and seeing some improvement in that, in my mental health, has really motivated me to just like create new things and be excited about the ways that I can change my mindset and my outlook on life. So yeah, I would say like creation, whether that's job opportunities, or even just like working out in the gym, or my relationship with my wife, or my relationship to myself has been a huge one. But seeing those like little bitty improvements has really gotten me excited to be like, okay, like I can create and I can change things around me and make life better. And so that's kind of exciting right now. Yeah, I feel like I've taken on life a little differently than some people. So I've kind of not that much different, you know. I'm pretty average in most respects, but like I said, we don't have kids yet. I'm 30 years old, and I've worked a ton of different jobs. So it's been hard at times, but I also think it's given me some opportunities and some freedom to kind of follow paths that other people might not be able to if they're locked in. And if you've got 2 or 3 kids, you know, you just need to go to work every day, you know, and that's a noble thing to do. But I've kind of had the opportunity to bounce around and try different things. And I feel like I've learned a lot through that. And there's a lot of dreams and goals and things that I have looking forward that are also motivating and exciting. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say for me, it's similar, a lot of like career stuff, but more than career, but because I do videography, but I'd say my dream is to make actual docudramas or even maybe like actual films one day. We'll see. And so I've been putting a lot of time and effort into just perfecting my craft and doing mentorships, like with like me getting mentored with. And some people think that's funny at times because like I have a friend in Little Rock who's also a wedding videographer, and he's been doing it for 2 years, I think, and I've been doing it for 6. But I reached out to him and I was like, I really like your work. Like, can I pay you to just mentor me some and just learn some more? Not like you're trying to steal anyone's style, but I almost feel like the palette, like I want to grow my palette that I can use to paint my digital pictures and everything. So I'm just getting really excited about that, about storytelling, and even this podcast is a crazy idea. We'll see where it goes. And so that's kind of...
Well, it sounds very similar to kind of where I'm at. That creative outlet, would you say?
Yeah.
In a very similar place.
Oh, yeah.
Creation gets us excited.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Just like making something.
Yeah.
It's nice to look back and be like, I did this, and like have something to show for it. Because sometimes, so I just turned 32 not too long ago, and you think, what do I have to show from my 20s? You know, there's a lot of like internal lessons, but you kind of wish I had a little. And, you know, I do, you know, I got a great family, got great kids and wife and business and everything. So I do have things to show for it. But sometimes you wish, or I should put it first person. I wish that I had, you know, like more pieces of art or things to share with the world, whether that's painting or music or videos. And I want to do more of that this decade.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely don't have those pieces yet either, but I feel like I'm in a good place of, I've convinced myself maybe, or I'm trying to look at it this way of like I'm failing forward. So like all the little random jobs and things I've done and not making a lot of money and all of these things have taught me so much. And so I feel like I'm in a much better place because of all of those things, even if they weren't necessarily the greatest. And maybe I kind of failed at them.
Yeah. I saw a Rainn Wilson clip where he was talking about like, don't try to accomplish anything in your 20s. Like you're not going to. Like just learn lessons and move forward. And so that can help. Like everyone's on the same boat of, and it's all relative. Like there's people, you know, someone could look at me and think I've done a lot with my life, but then I'm always looking at other people and being like, man, I haven't done anything, and vice versa. So it's just too hard to compare. And speaking of just art and creation, I love movies, and I think a way that I find a lot of like meaning is storytelling. A lot of people do, whether it's their movies or books or whatever. And so what's a movie that you've seen recently that's really that really inspired you?
This may be a cop-out because it's a documentary.
Oh.
But I mentioned it earlier, but this Stutz guy, his name's Phil Stutz, and it was actually directed by Jonah Hill because he's Jonah's therapist. So it introduced me to the book that I started reading called The Tools, which has been really, really helpful. But his whole thing is just practicality. And so he's very real, very authentic, and he gives you tools, what he calls them, and it's like step 1, step 2, step 3. Like if you're feeling this way, boom, boom, boom. And I've gotten a lot out of that. I also loved that like halfway through the documentary, they basically just like stopped it, and they were like, I think it was mostly Jonah, but he's like, this feels very inauthentic. It's like, it feels like we're portraying something that's not happening here. And so they just have this conversation between the two of them in the middle of this documentary, and they like cut the green screen and everything, so it's just like 2 chairs and it wasn't a real office behind them, and they're like, what are we doing? You know, like, let's be authentic, let's be real about what we're doing here. And so I just thought that was really cool.
So like Stutz with a Z?
Stutz, yeah. Stutz.
My watch list. I know you told me about that.
Yeah. So like he's a really interesting guy, and Jonah is super interesting and quirky, and yeah, I just really appreciated how they stopped mid documentary, and they're like, what the hell are we doing? You know? Yeah, so I just thought that was cool, and it obviously led me to some mental health hurdles that I overcame. So yeah.
Yeah, sure. I saw Oppenheimer, just came out in theaters. That'll date. I don't know when this will get released, but
yeah.
And it was very epic. It was very long. It's like 3 hours. But I love how Christopher Nolan does practical effects, and like, so because CGI can just, I don't know, it's like an assault on the brain of there's just like so much going on, and so it's neat when you're seeing real things. And yeah, it was inspiring. Is not even the work that they did was inspiring. The movie was very harrowing and daunting, and about the atomic bomb and all of that. But it was just like the opening sequence. There's all these crazy effects, the atoms and explosions, and you're just like, whoa! And the theater was just shaking. I've never been in such a loud theater, and so that was really neat. Just felt inspired by that. Actually brought some of my friends who grew up Mennonite, and I didn't realize it was their first time ever to a theater, because they grew up kind of conservative, and which surprised me because they're not like that way really anymore. And so I was like, yeah, I'll get you tickets, because like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was just a good time. But I felt bad. They had a trailer for the Exorcist, the new Exorcist that's coming out, and I was like, oh gosh, that's poor.
That's a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot.
That's a lot for me.
Yeah, for real. For real. And so just like a simple question. It kind of is. Easy question.
Yeah.
But on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate your relationship with your family, and why? And you can share, as much or as little.
Yeah, this was an interesting one. Like you said, you can kind of take it as deep as you want to, but I said an 8. Pretty solid. Yeah. I feel like I'm pretty close with my family. I'm really close with my siblings. I have 2 sisters, and yeah, it's been cool. Like over the years, I guess I've done enough to get them to trust me. And so it's cool now that we're a little older that they'll come to me for advice and actually like listen to me and seek out my advice, which is not something that most people get, or I don't get that often, being younger and whatever, don't have kids, and there's a lot of things that I can't give perspective on.
And fun fact about Neil and sisters, because they were twins, and they're born on your 2nd birthday, right?
So all the same birthday.
Yeah.
April 7th babies. Yeah.
Anyway, carry on.
Yeah, so it's been really cool building that relationship with them just over the years. It's really special to me that they love me and trust me and think that highly of me. My relationship with my parents is really good. I would say I wish I was closer with my parents, just on a deeper level. Just the way we grew up, we didn't have a lot of really deep conversation at the kitchen table, which was, my childhood was amazing, incredible. And the older I get, the more mature I get, and seeing friends have kids and everything, I'm so thankful for the way that I was raised, because it's not easy, and there's no manual for it, and it's so hard. So I'm so thankful. I would like to build those deeper relationships though, as I move forward. That's kind of a goal for me with my parents, just to have those deeper conversations and see what I can learn from them, and maybe learn some things that have happened or things that are going on in their life that hasn't been shared with me. So that's kind of a goal for the future for me.
Yeah, I put an 8 too, because and the remaining 2 is more on my part than on them, because like my family's great, and just things like my parents never fought, or if they did, it was never in front of us, and you just think, it's a lot of. I've got friends who their parents were just always yelling at each other, and you just think how much that affects your psyche and everything. And my parents were just great example. And really, we've never had a bad relationship, but had, like every family, have your ups and downs. But I'd say in 2021, which again was the awful year of my life, but then this was one of the things that really started improving. It was my sister moved back here from Nashville. She was in Nashville for a long time. And it's not like my family hadn't been connected before, because we had my brother's here, my parents are here. But she's got kids, we've got kids, so we just started doing a lot more things. And then my family started becoming like my friends that I'd see the most. And I thought, whoa, this is weird. Curveball. Yeah. Didn't see that one coming. And we enjoy each other's company. And my family's really witty. And it's fun to play board games that get creative. And yeah, so one thing, my sister recommended this fatherhood audiobook to me, and I've been listening through it. And one of the things the guy said was, and he started off saying, like, this is a crazy idea, and sometimes you hear things like that, and I'm just sort of a cynic by heart, and I'm like, you're just going to say something like fluffy, like, I don't know, like people say, like, okay, you're going to think I'm crazy, but try loving people more.
Yeah.
Like, okay, whatever. But he said, okay, why don't you write a letter to your dad, like, about the things you're thankful for, and even like the things that, like, if you have some input of like, I kind of wish there would have been more of this. And so I did that actually, and haven't given it to him yet. Okay. But that's one of my goals. And because it's not like my dad is unapproachable at all. Like, he's very much a people's person, but it's just hard to, like, sometimes it's hard to think, especially for men, to vocalize thanks, which is such a stupid...
Absolutely. I
don't know why.
It's almost this thing that I can recognize in myself now, where I like want to say something deep or meaningful to someone, and I'm like, there's just this hold on me. I'm like, don't say it. It's like, why would you not say that? It's just this weird psychological, like, handcuffing that happens.
Yeah.
So every time I feel that, I try to say whatever I want to say. So.
Working on it.
Yeah.
And a lot of times we find meaning through things we can't even always articulate, but just feel, those, like, this is right moments where you just know that something's right. So when was a time in life you had one of those experiences where you thought, this is it, like, this is what life's about?
Yeah. We just took a trip to Portugal and France and one day in Switzerland. And we were in Chamonix, France. And the first day we got there, just like walking through the town, and you're in the French Alps. So you're in this little town in the valley, and 360 all the way around you are just the Alps, and just the most incredible mountains I've ever seen. Like, I've been to Colorado, I've been to Washington. I don't want to throw shade. It's supposed to be an uplifting podcast, but those mountains are not the same.
They're not the same as the Ozarks?
Not the same as the Ozarks either. But just that beauty, and just like something so imposing and massive and mysterious. You're like, how did this thing happen? And it was just like really humbling, and it kind of, it's hard to look at that. And of course I'm on vacation, so I'm in vacation mode, but you're like, stuff like this exists, and we just go to work every day.
Yeah.
What is the world, And so in that moment, I actually shed tears that day. And I am not a crier. Like, I'm not a super emotional guy. Like, I feel like I have a healthy relationship with my emotions. But yeah, I've never just looked at something like that and shed tears.
Yeah.
And it was just like, wow, like this, I don't know what this is, but this is real and this is good. And yeah, that was the last time I had something like that.
Yeah. Mountains and nature and you can go through like, the geology of, for this many millions of years these forces were pressing against each other, but it's like, no, like, it's a mountain, like, what is this? For me, I'd say one of the big moments, I remember I used to live at this sort of halfway house and manage it for several years, and had 6 bedrooms. So there were a lot of people. There were like people getting back up off their feet, and Neil would come hang out over there a lot. But we'd have these dinners out on the back porch. We'd pull the table out back, and this house was surrounded. It was by campus, and it was surrounded on all 4 sides by apartment complexes. So there were students, and so it was just like every combination of person. There were like people in med school. There were ex-convicts. There were people getting off drugs. There were international students. They were just like sharing a meal on a back porch and summer days. And my buddy Sam would cook these really great meals. Like he made this green chili lasagna that was incredible. He'd make this habanero chicken soup that was just phenomenal. His mama taught him everything she knew. And so that was one of those times where I was always like, this is what it's about. Just like food and connection and learning. Like you're always learning something new and being challenged by all these different people. So that's something that comes to mind.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, looking back sometimes helps us to look forward. And so like what's like a really bright childhood memory for you that's like one of those times where like I had a lot of fun?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I don't remember a lot of my childhood.
Yeah.
And we've already said, like, I didn't have a lot of trauma or anything, so I'm not sure what that's about, really. But, yeah, sometimes one of my sisters is much like that, and the other is like, yeah, do you remember this and this time? And we're like, no, thanks for, like, telling us what happened in a job. But this time I did remember, we went to a lot of horse shows as kids, and I never showed, but my sisters and my mom did, and so I always had to tag along and find whatever I could to entertain me while we were there all weekend in the middle of nowhere, Oklahoma or Missouri or Arkansas. And so there was this one weekend where there was this big mud pit at this arena, and the whole weekend we were wanting to get in it, wanting to play in it. My parents were like, don't get near it, don't touch it, don't play in it, you know? And at the very end of the weekend, they're like, hey, if you guys want to go jump in that mud pit, do it, go now. And my parents just weren't like that, you know? And like, I want to be that parent who allows your kid to go get messy and scrape their knee or whatever. And so it was really kind of out of character for them and just like a really special moment for us where they're like, yeah, go do it for it. And so my sisters and me just went and jumped in this huge mud pit and rolled around for a while. And then they stripped us down and hosed us off and we drove home. So yeah, it was just really special, like a little thing where my parents gave us that freedom and we're like less worried about the mess and more worried about just kids being kids.
Yeah. For me, the thought that came to mind was a buddy, Tyler Lothian, and we were both just creative kids. And so we'd go over to his house and he had all these Star Wars toys, and we'd have all these sheets of paper with drawing out like characters and their names and their backstories, and we play with them and make all these story arcs and everything. And it was just like what kids should do. And I just always remember having so much fun doing that. There's not even like a particular exact memory. I just would like always look forward to like, yeah, I'm going to go to Tyler's house. I'm going to play with Star Wars toys. Yes. It's going to be a blast. And shifting from some of those like highs to maybe some lows, but like and you don't even have to share about lowest points in your life, but when you've been at lower points in your life where you've sort of like lost faith in yourself or in society or in God or whatever, what have been the things that have sort of brought you out of that slump?
I think family and friends, just people who can identify with being there. Because when you're in it, that feeling is consuming you, depression or anxiety or whatever, it's hard to like point it out. It's kind of hard to know, even though you're feeling it in that moment. So when you have people around you who have dealt, with mental health issues or just life struggles, it's been really crucial for them to be like, yeah, I know how you feel. Like I've been there and it will pass. Like this thing is not going to be forever. And I'm here for you and I love you. And just something as simple as that, someone who can identify with you and kind of walk through that and point out things that maybe even you can't see, which is something my wife has been great at. My wife has taught me so much about my emotions that I was totally unaware of. So yeah, there's people around you that love you well like that.
I'd say similar, like family stuff. I think particularly kids, like there's something about like you should just be a good man or woman or whatever because you want to do good to society. Or even like for my wife, sometimes that's not even like strong enough motivation to be a good man. But something about kids, you're like, man, I've got to like step up to the plate. I've got to, fix these things. And because I think of in those dark times, there's a lot of times where, and again, not wanting to get like too in the weeds of religious stuff, but I just had a hard time praying for a long time at all in any form or fashion. And I feel like the only way I could do that was when like my kid would fall asleep and his arm would be hanging out the crib and I'd be laying there with him and I just kind of like hold on to his arm and I wouldn't even be saying anything, but just like trying to believe that like there is meaning and purpose in the world and that we're not just these like featherless bipeds on this rock floating in space, like that there is meaning and purpose and that, love is a reality. And so, those are those sweet moments with kids and that motivation to like be a better person.
Absolutely. Maybe I need to have kids to get my prayer life back on track.
I don't know.
That's the secret.
I don't, well, yeah, I don't know if I should get too into that because I don't know. I'm just a practical person. Not that praying isn't practical, but I like to pray with my hands, so to speak, action.
Sure.
And so I still have trouble. Like if there is a God or like how do you even begin to communicate with that? But maybe that'll be like that's a whole other podcast. And then this is kind of one of the last main question, or just sort of a side question almost, but talked about movies some, about songs. Like art is such a wellspring of like meaning and inspiration. So is there a song recently that you'd recommend?
Yeah, my wife actually introduced me to Noah Kahan. Okay. I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly.
How do you spell it?
Kahan.
Okay.
And he's a great lyricist, and there was two songs that he came out with recently. One's called Call Your Mom, and it's kind of a story of one of his friends calls him up and basically says like, I want to commit suicide, and he's on his way to his friend's house, and he's like, I'm going to call your mom, we're going to get you help, this isn't going to last forever. But it's just about his like, he's got kind of a long drive over there, and it's just kind of this in-between of like, I'm going to call your mom, it's going to be okay. But then there's this like anxiety of like, I'm not there yet, like hold on. But it's still kind of beautiful in a way because he cares that much. And anyways, it hits me right in the feels. And then there's another one by him called No Complaints. And again, about mental health and his struggle with depression. And it's kind of like the pain that he felt before getting medicated was something that was like real and true, and it was like a deep feeling from within him. And then he got medicated and now he feels better, but he just doesn't feel things as deeply. So he talks about like not being able to cry anymore, or just kind of being very baseline. And so it's like, I've kind of been in those similar situations. So he's like, I can't complain because I'm not suicidal anymore, but also I can't cry, which is like a thing we should do. But yeah, very deep, very beautiful. Check him out.
Noah?
Noah.
Okay. Let's look that up. I forgot to think of an answer to this one. Just off the fly. What have I been listening to lately? Okay, this will probably sound stupid, but so Tool's like a metal band, and they're were bigger in the 90s and early 2000s, but I've been working out some for the first time.
Okay.
Like a weight set. Let's go. And there is something to just like pumping iron to metal that's like really been jacking me up, literally. And
love it.
So yeah, I've really been enjoying that. I like their just their style of writing is very epic, and it'll be these songs that are like about letting go of grudges, and but it's in this hard rock form, and you think, it's not just like screaming about my parents don't treat me well, like 3 Days Grace or something like that.
It's real manhood.
Exactly. So that's really all I got for today. I don't know if you have any initial thoughts, or initial is the end.
Initial.
Like closing
Closing thoughts. I'm excited for this just to learn and grow. Like we said at the beginning, have some people on that can teach us a thing or two, and just to have conversations, even with you. Like I don't see you as much as I used to, and so even if this is a total failure, which I don't think it will be, I'm excited just to have conversations.
Yeah, like thought best case scenario, this, becomes its own thing. But worst case scenario, you're just like creating interesting content, putting it out into the world.
Yeah, and you had good conversation. And even the little homework questions you gave me, it made me like sit down, and I'm not a good journaler or meditator, so it made me like take time to sit down and answer questions and be thoughtful.
Yeah. I had to do that too. I put more time to this probably than I should have. Just of like, I try to over plan everything. I was like, okay, I just need to go in it, have some questions, have a little guideline,
Just wing it.
see where it goes.
Yeah.
So yeah, hopefully we chipped away some what gives us meaning. And I thought I'd end with a quote that I thought was inspiring. Wait, before the quote, I remembered I had another note here that for each episode I wanted to give like a practical challenge to people, because I love practical things. And because sometimes you might listen to a whole audiobook and you get to the end of it and you're like, what do I do with that? And so just having some practical tips. So writing that letter to my dad was really helpful. And even though I'd still have to give it, but yeah, I just encourage people it doesn't have to be to their dad, just to like someone they care about, write them a little letter of appreciation. And that's, I think, a good challenge. It's like tangible. And so do with that what you will. And this quote, I just thought was a nice quote from Leo Tolstoy. The truth, like gold, is to be obtained not by its growth, but by washing away from it all that is not gold. And I think a lot of the search for meaning is, a return to childhood of those simple things and relationships, and like washing away all the sludge that's been put on top of us, rather than, it's a rediscovery than like a finding something new.
Yeah.
Enjoyed the time today.
Yes.
Let's do many more.
Enjoyed the beverage
And
spiritless
and the days to come, and we'll see y'all next time.